I would say baby steps. I think that sometimes when we start out on this journey, we bite off more than we can chew. We're like, oh, I'm going to conquer this whole thing in one go. And that's just not realistic. You didn't gain the weight in one go, and it's not going to lose in one go. And I think that it is a continuous practice. It is a continuous practice. It is practice. It is practice. For some, the practice might start with just getting into the gym, not even doing a workout yet, just getting into the gym, spending time there, spending 30 minutes there, getting that habit and that practice of even going into the establishment, that habit of maybe doing a meatless Monday where you take out something, that is how you start refining your diet. But it is a continuous practice. And I think one of the things that, I put on all of my posts is lead by example. That is something that I really, really believe in. We don't lead by saying, oh yeah, you ought to do this. And then it's like, well, what you do? What did you do? What do you do? Is that what you do? And so I think that is the accountability piece. When you say you lead by example, that is how I'm going to show you through the way that I live what. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of talking. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of conversation. I think that that's where a lot of our leaders and people have messed up. They're trying to have a lot of conversation and a lot of convincing. And I'm not interested, I've said it before, I'm not interested in convincing people to be good people, because being a good person is more for you than it ever could be for me.
Welcome to the I Choose Health podcast, where your stories of triumph empower others to overcome. Joining us on the show today is my friend and group fitness trainer, Lena James. Welcome back to 52 Choices, the show where each week we explore one small change you can make to live a happier, healthier life. This is habit number 4. Swap one processed snack a day for a whole food. Now I know how easy it is to reach for chips, cookies, or that protein bar with 18 ingredients you can't pronounce. Believe me, I've been there. But what if you replace just one of these processed snacks a day with something simple and nourishing? Think. An apple and almond butter, or a handful of raw nuts. These whole foods not only fuel your body better, they also help stabilize your blood sugar, support digestion, and keep you full longer. One study presented at the European Society of Cardiology Congress in August of 2023 tracked 10,000 Australian women for 15 years. Those with the highest amounts of ultra-processed food in their diet were 39% more likely to develop high blood pressure than those with the lowest. Another larger analysis also presented at the meeting looked at 10 studies involving more than 325,000 men and women. It showed that those who ate the most ultra-processed food were 24% more likely to experience serious heart and circulatory events, including heart attacks, strokes, and angina. Each 10% rise in daily intake of ultra-processed food was linked with a 6% increase in heart disease risk. A study from 2019, which followed about 20,000 university graduates in Spain, also showed a connection between ultra-processed foods and risk of early death. So, try replacing that ultra-processed snack with something simple and natural, like an apple, carrot, or nuts. Well, that's it for Habit 4 on 52 Choices. Tune in next week for another small shift with big impact. All right, guys, welcome back to the I Choose Health podcast, where you share your stories that empower others to do better. Now, today we have on our podcast my friend Lena James, and she's going to share her story with us, how she overcame and where she's at right now in terms of her health, where she's at in her life. And I'm really excited to have her back on the show. Lena James, welcome to the I Choose Health podcast.
Yo, what's up? What's up? Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Lena, I was looking at his stats, and it said that 73% of Americans are overweight. 43% of them fall into the obese category, and 30% of them fall into the overweight category, which is crazy to think of. And, I know that you shared your story at length on social media. And, I would like you to share with, our listeners, what your progress was what was like the first thing that got you, like, what did you see, like, where you're like, I do need to make a change? Like, what was the first sign or first situation where you're like, I need to really make a change in my health and my life?
I started out, it was really an environment change. So I moved to a nicer neighborhood and, I saw, people jogging. I had always wanted to lose weight, but I just didn't really have the accessibility and the tools to get it done, or to know, or the wherewithal to know how to get it done. So I had changed environments. And I was like, okay. I also watched Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, a Netflix documentary about a guy named
This is not
Joe.
a plug, but that's a great documentary, by the way. So.
It is a great documentary. And Joe, he went on a juicing fast, and he lost a lot of weight and got rid of a lot of his health ailments. And so I watched that, and I said, Mama, buy me a juicer. I got to lose this weight. Buy me a juicer. I want to lose this weight. And so I also started doing just 45 minutes on the elliptical in the apartment building that I was living in. And so that just kind of started me off. And from there, it just started to come off and come off. And it's definitely been a journey. I've ebbed and I flowed. I've gained weight back. I've lost again. A lot of people gained weight during COVID. I was not one of those people. I actually got more fit during COVID because I said, no, I'm not going to be, I'm not gaining. I'm not falling off the wagon. I really started, I'd say about 2013, and just every day, a little bit forward, a little bit more forward. Started out juicing, started out with learning how to exercise for 45 minutes, then going into learning how to weight train. I had a personal trainer for a while, then moving into group fitness classes that helped to develop my confidence to train on my own, and then moving into getting really good and giving people tips on while I'm training, like, hey, you should try this, I do this, and then someone suggesting, hey, you should be a trainer, and then now here we are as a trainer and group fitness instructor. So yeah, whole process.
That's amazing. And if you can't tell, Lena's got, well, I don't know if she started yet, but Lena's got what we call in the fitness industry group trainer energy, right? So y'all notice I'm a little, see, all right.
I bring the vibes, okay? I bring the vibes every time. Right.
And listen, man, that's necessary, right? Because that's the one thing as personal trainers that we try to do, is to provide that accountability, but also to give them that energy to push on through. Because there's some people, I have some clients that come to the session, they're like, hey, man, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling that third set. And I'm like, nah, you need to push it, right? And so just having someone who can kind of provide that extra energy, that extra oomph, and beyond it, like and obviously take this the right way, it's like a silly type of energy too, which is also kind of good, because it's like, sometimes if you get a little too stern with somebody, they may not like it. But if it's kind of like that kind of silly, kind of funny type of like push, it's something that will definitely spur them on in the right direction.
Yeah. I jokingly say, I dabble in cool girl, but I'm an expert at silly. Like, I'm an expert at silly. Like, I don't even know. Like, some people think, oh, yeah, like, if I'm quiet, like, some people think, oh, she must be cool. I'm not. I'm a middle schooler. Like, I will laugh at the fart jokes or the, like the inappropriate thing. I'm very silly. So, yes, I do tap into that energy, and that inner child, that light, I try to tap into that, and I try to go into my life and my work, and help other people tap into it too.
So I want to lightly touch on something you said. So you talked about moving to a better neighborhood. So this is about your journey and your health journey. Yeah. But when you said better neighborhood, if you want to clarify, and we know how it is in Brooklyn, right, where they're predominantly like gentrified neighborhoods, and you see white folk running through the neighborhood. When you said better neighborhood, is that what we're talking about?
Actually, in Atlanta at the time. So I moved from the West End, or west side of Atlanta, to Buckhead, Sandy Springs area. And I was also working as a nanny And so that just afforded me more opportunity, more time. And that was just, I said, okay, well, what I'm going to do with this extra time? Oh, there's a gym in this apartment. Okay, I'm going to go work out when I don't have the kid, and I'm going to juice when I don't have my job as a nanny. So that changed kind of my trajectory as far as my development.
Yeah, and I think definitely, like as you said, like neighborhood definitely has a major impact on maybe what you see and what you see as terms of possibilities. And I think a lot of that has to do with like imaging and what you believe for yourself, right? Because
let's keep it real. If we look at some stats, we just got Planet Fitness in the hood. There were no gyms in the ghetto. There were not 10 years ago. There were not gyms in the hoods. And also when you are in such a survival mode, you don't have that extra energy to get up and pour into yourself and give yourself a workout or give your energy to yourself. So it wasn't exemplified in a major way. There's not a lot of accessibility in a major way. And so that only now has started to shift. And it being more mainstream and more accessible. And it's a beautiful thing. I think that's great. But 10 years ago, there were not Planet Fitnesses everywhere. We really look at it. 15 years ago, there was not a gym. There's a liquor store, there's a fast food restaurant, but there was not gyms. So, we've made progress in some ways.
Hey, shout out to the Blink on 98th and Sutter. No plug here.
Right. Blinks, Planet Fitnesses, they were not 24-hour, they weren't really there.
Yeah. And I used to live in Bushwick. I lived in Bushwick for 2 years. I ain't gonna lie, I used to go to the gym, but I almost felt like it was a risk every time I was going there. But, I was like, all right. Because it's like, if you lived in Bushwick, especially in the 90s, like 92nd, 93rd, 94th Street, you were like, okay, I don't know if I'm going a bit above 95th Street, but I know I'm taking a risk going here. I've had some experiences in the past. I've had some experiences on my street. I'm not going to say what block I used to be on. But there's some things that used to happen in the hood. And I do get why a lot of times certain gyms weren't in those neighborhoods. But again, it is this idea of kind of continuing to put black and brown folks in a box, right?
Absolutely.
And this is your experience. This is what it's going to be. You're going to be, as you said, at the liquor store. You're going to be eating fast food. We as a community obviously want better for ourselves. Like I don't think there's any individual who, maybe there are some who are okay with, just like surface living. Like obviously there are people who want something better. And so, it's definitely up to us to bring these things into our neighborhood and then also, continue to make sure that it is, a lot of times it's important to make sure it's black owned because at some point, they're going to bring these establishments in and then they change certain things about the environment that kind of push black and brown folks out of the area. So we don't want that happening as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, I put on all of my posts is lead by example. That is something that I really, really believe in. We don't lead by saying, oh yeah, you ought to do this. And then we be like, well, what did you do? What did you do? What do you do? Is that what you do? And so I think that is the accountability piece. When you say you lead by example, that is how I'm going to show you through the way that I live what to do. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of talking. I'm not really interested in a whole lot of conversation. I think that's where a lot of our leaders and people have, messed up. They're trying to have a lot of conversation and a lot of convincing. And I'm not interested, I've said it before, I'm not interested in convincing people to be good people because being a good person is more for you than it ever could be for me. And so I'm not interested in trying to convince. I'm interested in being. I think one of the things that I've understood too is that when I have to try to convince and prove who I am, I'm spending less energy being. And we have to spend more energy being who we are and who we were created to be, so we can show others who they are. And that's just what I'm interested in doing. So it's about being an example so that other people see and follow and are inspired to move on their own.
And just getting things back on track. We've had similar journeys going back to 2010, 2011 for myself. I was about 70 pounds overweight, and I lost that weight back in 2011. And I know your journey was somewhere around. Oh, thank you.
It ain't easy. Right?
No, it's not, man. And it's not. There's so many things I had to change. And it was easier then because I was like my early 20s. And then kept that off for a good number of years. Then gained it back prior to the pandemic. And so I was turning 30 that year that the pandemic happened. And so I'm like, all right, I can't bring 38 out of shape. So even now, as I'm trying to maintain at 34, going on 35 this year, I'm definitely trying to make sure that I'm staying on top of that, especially as a dad. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to keep up with my little one, because she's definitely showing that she's got a lot of energy, and that daddy better have the energy to match, right? So going back to your journey as well, back in 2013, for people who are at that place, I know you said your heaviest you got to like 240, right?
Yes.
For people who are at that place and they're like, I'm at my heaviest, at the most difficult point in period of my life, emotionally, physically, psychologically, what would you say is the most important thing for them to focus on as they're trying to get things back on track, especially getting things back on track for themselves physically?
I would say baby steps. I think that sometimes when we start out on this journey, we bite off more than we can chew. We're like, oh, I'm gonna conquer this whole thing in one go, and that's just not realistic. You didn't gain the weight in one go, and it's not gonna lose in one go. And I think that it is a continuous practice. It is a continuous practice. It is practice. It is practice. For some, the practice might start with just getting into the gym, not even doing a workout yet, just getting into the gym, spending time there, whatever, spending 30 minutes there, getting that habit and that practice of even going into the establishment. That habit of maybe doing a meatless Monday where you take out something, that is how you start refining your diet. But it is a continuous practice. It is, I think, one of the things also is that our society moves in a very rudimentary kind of way. Like every day is the same, but really we are cyclical beings. So we go through cycles, and every cycle we improve, and every cycle we improve, and every cycle you get a little bit better, you get a little bit better. And that is really the way that I look at it. And one thing that I also say is that you never regret a workout. You never say, oh, I wish I didn't work out. You say, oh, I wish I had done this workout. So that's something that I always try to remember. Like, even when you don't feel like it, you have to remember how good you feel on the other side. You will feel better about yourself because you have given yourself some energy and some of your time. And it will, you have to keep that in mind. So you have to keep the end in mind. And baby steps, take little bites at a time. It's going to take a little bit at a time, and that's cyclical to keep practicing. I'm still practicing. I'm still getting better. I'm incorporating new habits every time. Oh, I like this protein here. Oh, I like to do this at this time. Oh, so I'm still incorporating and improving with every cycle and every time. So, yeah.
And I think that's important because, like, one of the mottos that I have for my business is "What do you want?" Right, and it's one of the things that I developed as I was losing weight the second time around. Is like, what do you want? Really ask yourself, do I really want this thing? Right, and just to bring a little bit of a spiritual element into it, I know that there's a scripture verse where Jesus was like, "Okay, before you go on the journey, count the cost. Do I really want to get into the best shape of my life, right? Do I really want to get in the best shape of my life, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically? Okay, what does that take, right? It takes me doing the hard work, doing the things that are necessary, right? And so that's where that change really comes. That's where that change occurs when you start doing that work up here first. Like, okay,
yes,
I got to change everything up here first, right? I kind of talk about like what you had to do psychologically to get yourself to that place as well.
I think that one of the things that really helped me psychologically was what are you going? What you're doing, whatever you're doing, is it going to take you closer to your goal or further away from your goal? So like you said, what do you want? And do you want to go backwards or do you want to go forward? And so you have to think about and take assessment of all of your actions and take real assessment of where you actually are. I think a lot of times that's really the problem. We don't really take full assessment, full deep dive analysis of where we actually are so that we can chart the path forward. If you don't know where you are on the map, you're not going to know which direction you're going. You're not going to know whether you're coming or going. And so I feel you have to really take a hard look. And it's sometimes uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to look at the places where you're not doing well or what you haven't done or where you're making excuses. It's uncomfortable. And you have to take that uncomfortable look at where you are so that you can chart forward where you want to go. And also, I think the mental part is really about your energy. So when we're taking the assessment and looking at where we really are, I think we have to look at our energy expenditure. Where are you spending your energy? If you say that you want to be this version of a person, but the version that you're giving your energy to the older version, to the habits of a different version of you that you don't want, then you have to take assessment and say, I think I need to cross that off the list, because that's not what my higher self does. That's not what my higher self, that's not a habit that my higher self has. So you have to take full assessment of your energy and where you're expending it. And then also, I think we have to really believe that you are worthy of you. You are worthy of your time. You are worthy of your energy, because that is what exercise really is. It is you spending time with you to strengthen your body. And a lot of times people are uncomfortable just being with themselves. And so we have to think about, okay, what in my life said or illustrated to me and told me that I was not worthy of my own time, of my own energy. And I always tried to put it out and give it to other people and give my time and my energy to other people. And so that is a mental component that we have to stop. We have to create boundaries. We have to create boundaries and say our energy needs to stop going out if it's not serving us. And so and if it's not healthy, and that we can give our energy to ourselves. And it's okay, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's a healthy thing in and out.
There's something that we have to learn. And I mean, again, I'm not trying to keep it too much in the space of us as a people, and I'm speaking about us as a people, Black people. That self-love is something that is obviously missing in a large way in our community, not holistically, not entirely, but it's something that I know a lot of us have a hard time dealing with, like loving ourselves, right?
Yeah,
a lot of times we find ourselves in a space of like, all right, I just got to do what I got to do. And we're not thinking about loving ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, in survival mode, you're not able to take real assessment. You're just trying to stay at the day to day. But I also believe that generational trauma, we have had a generational cycle of people who have not cared for themselves. We have had a society that has told us that we're not even worthy of care. So that is something that we have had to unlearn. That's something that you have to unlearn. You have to unlearn that from, and that is how you heal generational trauma. You heal generational trauma that by understanding first, the harm that has been occurred, and then how do you counter that? How do you repair that? How do you heal that? And that self-love is definitely an aspect of it.
So I know we're starting to wind down, but you just touched on something that, really got me going now. And that's like, thinking about, as you said, that self-love. Speak about the mentality of survival and how that impacts the way that we think about nutrition as a people, right? Because it's like, all right, I'm just trying to survive, so I'm gonna go get this McDonald's on the dollar menu. I'm good, right? Instead of like actually trying to like, let me sit down, let me get a budget together, see how I can, go and put together healthy foods that actually, after I add it up, is actually going to equate to me, spending this money in a fast food restaurant each day, right? Speak about that mindset, like that survival, and how that impacts the way that, we actually...
I mean, there's so many levels to that. Do we just even have the knowledge of what to eat? I mean, when we're talking about generational trauma, or we're talking about generational habits, I grew up in the South. So soul food, macaroni and cheese, candy yams, fried chicken, I'm getting hungry thinking about it, dressing, cornbread. My grandmother would cook and prepare food, and if you turned down the food, you were turning down her love, and that was problematic. And also Clean Plate Club. You couldn't get up from the table unless the food was completed. So there's generational habits and things that we learn from our elders and from our parents. And so, do we even know? We don't even know. Our parents didn't know, and then we don't know. So it's also about learning about nutrition and what are the things to eat and what are the things that are good for your body. And then if we go back to, I remember the first time that I went to Costco, and I felt like, I can effectively shop in here, and I would feel good about it. Like I didn't feel nervous about it. Okay. A lot of times when we're shopping here, people are in food deserts. People cannot make healthy choices because it's just not fiscally possible. It's just financially, it's too tight. It's too nervous. You can't spend for the grass fed. You need to get the chicken. You can't get the grass fed beef. You got to get the chicken. So it's a very sticky place. And then it's also one thing that I want to make sure I say is that there's a shame. There's a shame that is attached to the perceived lack or the lack or not having. And I think that a lot of times we internalize that shame. But what I really believe is that the shame of a lot of what Black people are going through does not belong to Black people. It belongs to the people who are causing harm to Black people. So as soon as we are able to not internalize that shame and to say, no, this does not belong to me, and say healthy choices belong to me, and health belongs to me because I choose it.
Yeah.
Podcast name. I choose
there
health.
We go.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to. I'm sorry. But it choosing to letting go of shame when it comes to certain things, and saying that no, health and wellness and good things belong to me. And releasing the shame and the trauma and the things. One of the things too is that a lot of people talk about generational trauma, and we have to talk about our generational gifts. We did inherit some trauma, but we do have generational gifts, and so we do have to have that balance of making sure that we are, yes, we are addressing the things that have harmed us, but we also have gifts and we also have strengths that were inherited generationally that we have to honor as well. So. Yes, there's a lot of different things, from finances to generational habits to just a lack of knowledge and to being exposed. And so that is, again, why leading by example and telling our stories and having more conversations like we're doing is so vitally important to push everyone forward.
Yeah. So as we're winding down, and this is usually the part in the podcast where we allow the guests to kind of share with us what they have coming up next, and then also to let them know where we can find you on social media.
You can find me on social media, Miss Lena James, MS Lena James. That is my personal. And then MS Lena James Fit is my fitness Instagram, where you can find soon some more content and some more information about my journey and just how I'm journeying to getting to the best version of myself. I am with Crunch, and I will be teaching class at a sweat shed near you. So you can just search me up on the apps, look for Lena J, and come take a class with me, and we'll get it in, and I'll bring the vibes and bring the energy.
Hey, y'all better bring the energy, because Lena's no joke, all right?
Summer is coming.
Bring the
It's gonna
energy.
be fine for our life, okay? Just fine. just fine. We just gonna be, that's what we gonna see ourselves. I mean, seeing crop tops and bikinis, and, you know, not just, I mean, aesthetics are cool too. That's something that I want to add into. Like, I used to hate shopping. I used to hate it because I didn't know that the clothes were going to fit. I was nervous. Is this going to be? But baby, you can't tell me nothing now, honey. You can't tell me. You can't tell me because the little dress be dressing, okay? The shoulders be shouldering in the dress. The back be backing in the dress. So, so it's definitely it is a multiple benefits to the journey.
All right, well, guys, this is probably just only part one of this, because we're gonna have Lena back at some point, so pretty soon. So look out for that. But Lena, thank you so much again for agreeing to do this podcast. A little secret. So Lena has been so graceful that actually the first time we recorded about a week or two ago, there was like a major echo in the background of the recording that I could not remove, and she so graciously agreed to do the
Listen. We could do a whole bunch more of these. We could do as many as you want, because at this point, I honestly think that this one was better. I think this one was better than the one before.
There we go. Hey, so God worked it out. God worked it out. All right, yo. So again, just remember, this is the I Choose Health podcast. I'm your host, Stefan, Lessie, and just remember that when you are choosing your health, you're choosing power, possibility, and purpose, and that, you know, this is the place where we come to share our stories that are going to empower others. And I hope that this one empowers you as well. All right. You guys have a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.